Hello everyone, this is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there. Hello everyone, this is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there.
My name is Richard Ferrer, and I can say I am cloud hired.
That yes, come and join and get cloud hired. I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
Hey, Go Cloud Architect family, I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired, guys.
So I'll just say I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired thanks to Go Cloud Architects.
It worked for me, and now I'm cloud hired. Because of Google Architect program, I am cloud hired. See!
I am cloud hired. Thank you, Mike and the Glowcloud team.
All right, welcome everybody to another Q&A session, Cloud Computing Career Q&A session from us at Go Cloud Careers. My name is Chris Johnson. I am the Chief Operating Officer here. So we come on YouTube every week to answer your questions about anything cloud computing career related, whether it's about the cloud architect job or the cloud engineer job. What is a cloud architect? How to become a cloud architect? What is cloud computing? Anything and everything that you might want to know about the cloud architect role or cloud computing careers. We're here to take your questions. So I see that we've got some people in here, and I see that nobody has asked a question yet. So don't be shy. Make sure you ask us your questions. We're here to help you. The team on this call has over 50 years of leadership experience, and we're here to help you, and we want to help you build your best technology career. So make sure you ask us your questions. That's why we're here. We come here at least once a week to answer your questions about your career development or your training. So make sure to ask those questions. So I'll introduce everybody on our team. Get my jacket out of the way here. Welcome to live TV, everybody. So we have Mike. He is our founder and CEO, obviously more prepared than I am today. He has been in tech for 25 years, and he has held elite architect positions for 2 decades as a network architect, enterprise architect, cloud architect, and a business architect. We've got Alonzo. He is our chief marketing officer, and he's an expert on marketing, branding, strategy, and leadership. He brings 30 years of marketing experience to the table, and he has worked with major global organizations and has led major cloud projects through his career. He helps our students build that elite brand that makes the world come to them. And then, last but not least, of course, me. As I said earlier, my name is Chris Johnson, and I am the Chief Operating Officer here. And I bring 15 years of HR and corporate leadership experience to you. So as I keep mentioning, we're here to help you. So we all have MBAs. We all have the skills from our extensive careers. And we're here to help you not only get hired, but put you on your path to long-term career success. So I want to remind everybody why I keep re-emphasizing we're here to help you for free today. So as a reminder, Mike has helped so many people and has built such great tech careers with these people and has earned such a reputation that he is in such high demand that it costs $1,200 per hour to speak with him on a private consult. And that list is over 4 months long at this point. So again, we're here for you to answer your questions today. So got my introduction out of the way. Got a couple of things that I want to remind everybody about. Before I do any of that reminding, actually, no. Before I let Mike or Alonzo say anything, I'm going to tell everybody about the most important thing that's going on right now. So right now, through tomorrow, we have a 60% off discount available on our award-winning Cloud Architect Career Development Program. 60% off. Regularly priced at $24.99, currently available for less than $1,000. Only until tomorrow. We've had this discount available since January, I believe January 13th or 14th, something like that. It ends tomorrow. After tomorrow, it will never be 60% again. We will continue our discount countdown after that, but it will not be 60% again. This is the last time, less than 48 hours left for you to enroll in our award-winning program for less than $1,000. That's over 500 hours worth of content, 3 live classes a week for an entire year, and just so many things that I can't explain in the time that I've got for you. But I wanted to point that out to everybody. Tyrone has put the link in the chat box over there. There's a link in the description as well. So I wanted to put that out there. Now, Mike, Alonzo, any words before we get going here?
Yes, absolutely. So, for me, I love watching people get hired. And, it's very easy for us to take engineers, retrain them, and get them hired. And we've been doing this for forever. But I want to let you know it doesn't matter your background. Vladimir was a 24-year-old college student, hired as a cloud architect. Delroy Bowden, I know I talk about him a lot because he comes and visits me in Florida, so he's fresh in my mind, was an EMT, like a paramedic working on the ambulances, now working at CDW as a cloud architect. Coyote at AWS as a cloud architect. Yvonne Tamba at AWS as a cloud architect. Balwinder, a stay-at-home mom at Microsoft as a cloud solution architect. And I can give you examples. We had Roy last week or 2 weeks ago that got a senior solution architect job at Deloitte with zero tech experience. And I could give you example after example. Last week, Alex got a job as a cloud architect. We retrained him from another program. And actually, there were about 5 people we got hired last week. It was either 5 or 6. I lost count after 5. But the point is, all of you can do it. Now, the key is knowing what career, and I was actually responding to Ahmed, who had asked a question a second ago. It's knowing what the career is that you desire and building the perfect skills. I'm going to tell you right now, tech is not enough for any real job in today's world. And it hasn't been for about a decade, especially with things changing, with artificial intelligence that are changing the way things are. But you can do anything you desire to. And I don't care what it is. You don't need to start at the bottom. You don't need to do help desk or sysadmin or cloud admin work. People told me that lie 20 some years ago. They told me I had to be a network admin before I could be a network engineer. And my first job was a network engineer 4. Not even a 1, 2, or 3, but a 4. But all of you can do it. So we're here. Ask us your questions. I want to make sure I can guide you to the right path. We've got a team of people. Chris has an HR background that is unbelievable. I've been helping people get hired or promoted for decades now. I've had phone calls with someone and gotten them a $50,000 raise and a $50,000+ stock grant from a single phone call by guiding on someone what to say. So I'm here free. So please ask. Our students don't even apply for jobs in 90% of cases. They are bombarded the second they join Go Cloud Careers. Now, part of that is because we've got Alonzo, who will introduce himself to you next. He's got 32 years of marketing. 32 years. Our students have such a good brand, they don't even need to apply. Delroy Bad had 0 certification, 0 tech background, and he turned down 2 of the 3 jobs that he was offered. And he gets hammered every single day just because he has Go Cloud Careers on his resume. So the point is, all of you can do anything you want. What stops 90% of the people out there is fear. Yeah. Be courageous. Courageous is not, we don't have fear. Courageous is what you do in spite of the fear. So that's me. Go after your dreams, whatever they are, with anything we can to guide you. Whether it's a cloud architect, cloud engineer, network architect, enterprise architect, doesn't matter. I've been helping people for 20 years and I want to help you. Well, how about you, Alonzo?
Definitely, Mike. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. I couldn't have said more of a detailed explanation between you and Chris. We're here to help you. I want to emphasize that we are here to help you. We're not here to get you certified. We're here to get you to that ultimate step of getting that offer letter. We want to make sure you get that call saying that insert name, we'd like to offer you a position. That is our goal. That's what we celebrate. That's what we have an enormous time doing, and we revel in that. So your steps start now. Your steps for a great career, it begins today. So we're looking forward to answering your questions. Please don't be shy. Step up. Let's get you going. All right, let's roll.
All right. So before I get to the first question, next thing that I want to remind everybody about is that tonight at 7 p.m., we will be doing an evening version of our How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. Normally we do these on Thursdays at 1 p.m. Eastern, but we've been getting a lot of requests. We did one on a Monday night a few weeks ago and went very well. So we decided we were going to do another one. So make sure to register for our How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar, whether it be tonight at 7 p.m. or on Thursday at 1 p.m., whichever one you choose. Make sure you register. You can register at the link in the chat box from Tyrone, or you can register at the link in the description. And we'll tell you everything you need to know to become a cloud architect, what hiring managers want, what cloud architects actually do, what to do with those job descriptions, and HR. And then, of course, we'll tell you everything you need to know as a cloud architect so that you know exactly what you need to learn, whether you do it with us or on your own. We'd love for you to do it with us, but we give you the whole information so that you can decide what to do there. And then we'll take more of your questions. So if your question doesn't get answered in the time that we've got on this Q&A, you can join us on the webinar this evening. So make sure to take advantage of that. Oh, I see Noah. Noah is in the chat box. Noah was recently cloud hired a few months ago. I think.
Right.
Was that before Christmas or Thanksgiving?
I think it was right around then. Noah was wonderful to work with, super smart, super capable, extraordinary, and like me, he didn't come from a tech background before he got his first cloud architect job either. So Noah, I'm thrilled to see you here. You're an amazing architect. I'm very proud of you. Congratulations on your wonderful new role.
January 1st was his date. Oh, well, that's a good date.
That's the ultimate New Year's resolution.
What a New Year. Noah, we're honored to have you here.
Well, even though you probably haven't been in the training dashboard for a while, go take a look at the changes that we just made, Noah. Yeah. I'm sure you'll find those very interesting. All right, let's get to our first question. Let's see, where did it go? Okay, well, it's not a question. It's Mr. Dominique. I love his comments. Everyone thinking about enrolling in the course, the program and the community are great. The live classes are especially fantastic. I enrolled in December and learned a lot already. Well, thank you for those kind words. Glad to hear that you are enjoying the content and gaining knowledge during your process with us. That's what it's all about. Cloud tech. What's the landscape for cloud architect in South Africa, South Africa to be specific, and the skills to have to land a job as a cloud architect in this part of the globe?
Well, cloud tech, it's interesting. South Africa is actually the best part of Africa to get hired as a cloud architect. And you would think it would be Nigeria, because when I think of Africa, I think of Nigeria as kind of like the Silicon Valley of Africa, a country rich with natural resources and a lot of tech professionals. But South Africa's got a lot of cloud computing there. We recently had a student, Portia, that was hired. Now, the key of getting hired as an architect is you have to remember you're not an engineer. And this is the absolute most critical thing, as a cloud architect is not an engineer. And what I mean by that, to get hired as an architect in any country, it's all about, first, your business knowledge, your leadership, your executive presence, your CXO relevancy, your sales abilities, and your ability to design things. So for example, a cloud architect will not touch the technology. They will not configure. They will not code. There'll be nothing in a certification that's related to the cloud architect job at all. What we do as architects first thing we got to go is ask the client about their business. So in order to be able to ask a client about their business, you must know business, and that's called business acumen. You need to have that to be an architect in any part of the world. Now, the next thing is you got to get the requirements, which means you're going to have extraordinary good listening skills, because if you miss them, the design is bad, and communication skills, because nobody hands you a piece of paper and says, build this. That's not what we do as architects. So you're going to have extremely good executive communication skills. Now, because you're going to have to present to the CEO, you're going to have to communicate to executives, and that's called, you need executive presence and something called CXO relevancy. For example, Chris is my chief operating officer. Chris, S3 uses SHA-256-bit encryption. He's going to look at me like he's got 4 heads. He doesn't care. Now, Chris, if we use object storage on the cloud, you'll be able to store your information cheaper, and you'll be able to access the information by searching it and give you better information to make better business decisions. So you're starting to smile now, because I put it into executive terms versus techie terms. Now, after this, as a cloud architect, especially in Africa, since there's not that many cloud architects there, and there's not that many anywhere, honestly, and there's a massive shortage, you're going to be presenting at conferences, and there's plenty of conferences in South Africa. So you're going to need good presentation skills, you're going to need good executive writing skills, and because no one architect ever designs a design by themselves, it's a team sport. You're going to need really good leadership skills. And you're going to have to do a lot of selling. For example, there's a company that I worked for a short period of time that's, it used to be Dimension Data, which was headquartered in South Africa. Now it's called NTT Data. Huge, massive presence in South Africa. Lots of cloud architects there, by the way. And for example, when you meet with a client, you're going to have to sell internal resources to give you the team. Now, from there, cloud tech, you're going to need to understand the network and the data center technologies. Things like BGP, IP addressing, subnetting, supernetting, switching technologies such as VLANs, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking, spanning tree, rapid spanning tree, link aggregation groups, for example. Then you're going to need to know DNS, DHCP, ARP, proxy ARP, those kind of things, and NAT. And it's not just NAT going to the internet like you'd see in a silly certification. It's one-to-one NAT, one-to-many NAT, static NAT, dynamic NAT, and port address translation. From there, you're going to need to know the data center, which means servers and server virtualization, containers and container orchestration, storage area networks like block storage, object storage, file storage, databases, relational databases, NoSQL databases, as well as data warehouses. And no, you won't be using those cloud native things like DynamoDB because they don't work in a multi-cloud environment, and 80+% of customers are multi-cloud. You'll need to understand load balancers, reverse proxies, and of course the security hardware that's out there. And it's not the stuff that you see in a certification. It's your next generation firewalls, IDS, IPS systems, VPN concentrators, those kind of things. As well as you're going to need to know a bit about how Active Directory works and other identity and access management systems. From there, a little bit about business applications. It takes us between 500 and 700 hours to teach this cloud tech. But those are the specific skills that you're going to need in any country in the world to be an architect.
All right. There we go. There we go.
And actually, let me mention one more thing, Chris.
Okay.
No, I didn't mention code. I didn't mention configure. I didn't mention DevOps. And I didn't mention SysOps. They are other people's jobs and other people's careers. There's only so much time you have in your life. And if you train to be an engineer, you won't be hired as an architect. So we're very specific for that point for you.
All right. Make sure you get those questions into us so we can answer them while we are here. And don't forget to register for our webinar this evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Let's see. I don't think we ever saw follow-up to this, but I think it's important. We can have a kind of an open discussion about different roles.
Yeah.
Since we didn't get feedback, but I think it's important. Nowadays, cloud knowledge is not enough.
Never was.
Never. What should we learn in addition to that?
It all depends on the career. So I'll tell you one thing. Hands-on only tech jobs like engineering are dead. But even if you want to be an engineer, there's still ways to be there. Now, the reason I say hands-on engineering careers are dead is ChatGPT can write a Python script. ChatGPT can write a Terraform script. ChatGPT can spit out the CLI to launch something. ChatGPT can write a CloudFormation script for AWS. I don't need to hire anybody to do that stuff. Nobody, zero. I can just use the tech to do it. But I could hire one really great person on the technical side, give them ChatGPT, and have them lead a bunch of cloud admins in another part of the world where they're really cheap. So the key is realizing, what matters. Now, I'm going to tell you, if you want to have a good career in technology, you know what you need to learn? I'm going to tell you right now, business acumen. It's the most critical skill you need to learn. And why is it the most critical skill you need to learn? It's going to give you the most upward mobility in your career, and it's going to pay you the most. Now, when you go to salary.com, you'll see that the average person with business acumen earns $549,000 per year. Why do you think we have so much business acumen training in everything we do? To give our students a head start. Let's look at some jobs with business acumen. Here we've got a principal architect at AWS that pays $372,000. The architect is a business acumen job. Why? We solve business problems with technology. Here's a principal architect at Microsoft that pays $508,000 a year on average. Now, mind you, I was a principal architect in less than 2 years when I started technology. Another Microsoft $380,000 for principal architect. So how about someone that's not an architect? Someone that really knows tech and knows how to leverage the technology to solve business problems. Here we've got a senior director at Cisco that pays about $530,000 a year. And it's not just Cisco. And here we've got one at Palo Alto Networks who's got about an average pay of $540,000 a year. So business acumen is your most critical skill. Now, in addition to that, it's going to be your soft skills, your communication skills with people. And next, your emotional intelligence. Employers, and there was a recent Forbes article that said employers will pay for soft skills over hard skills in today's world. Now, what else is really out there that's going to be really critical? Well, emotional intelligence is the best long-term predictor of your career success, statistically speaking. On average careers, not tech careers that are high-paying, on average careers, people with higher levels of emotional intelligence earn $29.6 thousand more per year than individuals without it. In tech careers, it's skewed even more. Now, the studies show that for every 1% increase in emotional intelligence beyond that, it equates to an additional $1,300 per year. So I want you to understand this. Just training your emotional intelligence over a 30-year career can easily be $1 to $2 million. $1 million for the average person and potentially $2 million just for technology perspective. Now, there's an African proverb that I really like, Ahmed, and it says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. When it comes to tech, it's not how good you are. It almost doesn't matter. It's how good of a team you can build. Alonzo happens to be a great cloud architect, and I stole him from my working in the cloud. But even if he wasn't, if Alonzo was a program manager and an MBA like he is, in addition to his cloud architect basis, if he could build a team of 50 of the best and brightest technology professionals and get them to work together, it'd be better than somebody with 20 years experience that can't build the team. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Now, the next thing is your presentation skills. They really matter. Your sales skills. In fact, Ahmed, when I was younger, about 20 years ago, I had a manager who pulled me in his office. I fell asleep in a certification boot camp, which was really good because it really changed my life. He tapped me on the shoulder and he says, "Mike, would you come talk to me?" And I was expecting to be reprimanded for falling asleep in a $5,000 one-week boot camp 20 years ago. And he says, "Mike, the reason I pulled you to the side is to tell you you're not like regular people." He said, half of these techies, they come into work, they don't want to talk to people, they lock themselves in the room. He says, you relate to people. He says, would you like to know the difference between a $150,000 engineer like you, sales engineer, and a $300,000 distinguished engineer or enterprise architect? I was like, tell me, please. And he says, the impact you make on your customers, which is related to your soft skills, your executive presence, your communication skills, your leadership skills, your emotional intelligence. That's the difference. He said, no more engineering for you. He said, focus on how you make your customers more successful, develop your business acumen. So it's all about how you present yourself. Now, if you tell me the career, I can tell you which additional tech skills are needed for the engineer. I just covered the architect, Ahmed, so I really need to know your career because an engineer's technical training and an architect's technical training are different. Architects don't touch the tech. A cloud engineer would need to know Linux. An architect does not. A cloud engineer needs to know how to write Python. A cloud architect does not. A cloud engineer needs to know how to work with Terraform. A cloud architect does not. A cloud engineer needs to know how to use the management console, the CLI. A cloud architect does not. They need to design, present, and sell. A cloud engineer needs to know hands-on Kubernetes configuration. A cloud architect needs to know how it works and how to design it. So they're very different skills. So if you can give me more knowledge, I'd love to answer it, but I don't want to give you bad information. But I'll tell you, any technology professionals can benefit from those soft skills and business acumen skills and add a couple $100,000 to your salary over potentially each year and make millions of dollars difference in your career.
All right. So I think to wrap that up, business acumen and emotional intelligence and amazing soft skills are the additional components to that are necessary to become a cloud architect or any successful person in the cloud computing space these days.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, you're leaving me and Alonzo speechless here. So you just give it all the answers. All right.
Sorry about that.
Next question. I have an AWS Cloud Practitioner cert, an AZ900, AZ104, AZ305, but I don't know how to grow. What next steps? So,
Oh yeah.
do we know what? First of all, I'm gonna pivot. If you can share with us, Nirav, if you can share with us what role you want, that can help us. But I got a feeling Alonzo's about to say something that would be applicable to most any role.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are your first thoughts without knowing the role? What are your first thoughts when you see this?
The first thoughts without knowing the role is that you leave a lot for people to assume because you didn't fill in the blanks. Now, based on our criteria of what we're trying to do, we're going to make the grand assumption that you want to be a cloud architect. Now, being a cloud architect is not about the buzzwords, because if I was a CEO and say, for instance, you shared that you're trying to sell or create architecture based on this sentence as being a AWS certified cloud practitioner cert, and then you have the Microsoft Azure 900, 104, 305 certs, that wouldn't mean anything to me. We would have to get an understanding of what your capabilities, your competency is, and it should not be outlined according to what you took via some certifications. We need to know what your capabilities are. Are you able? Do you know about the virtual data center and networking? Do you know about BGP? Interior? Do you know about WANs, LANs? Do you know about containerization? Do you know about security groups, NACLs, next generation firewalls? Are you able to create disaster recovery, high availability, durability? Are you able to expound on these capabilities? Are you able to work within a team, be able to coordinate said team for execution across the life cycle of this project? I mean, there's a plethora of different things that we can talk to for a while. So
we just got feedback.
Cloud engineer role.
Okay, so you've mentioned some certifications. Now let's help you. I'm going to tell you right now, certifications are like icing on a cake. Meaning, if you've got 4 jars of icing and no cake, they're completely worthless.
Yeah.
But I'll show you what to do. The good news is the certification means you know a name of a service and how to configure that at a basic level. Good. I'm going to tell you this. Stop doing certifications right now.
Yeah, that's enough.
I won't even interview anybody with more than 3 certifications because I know that certifications brainwash you in a way that'll force you into thinking like the vendor wants you to. And once I've got somebody with more than 3 certifications, I know they've been brainwashed. For example, AWS. They don't use CloudFront as their primary content delivery network. They use Fastly, Acumen, and CloudFront. Why? Because they can't rely on a single provider the way they teach in their certification. Guess what? In their certifications like the AZ305, they talk about Microsoft firewalls. No business is going to use that. The real business is going to use something from Palo Alto, Cisco, or Fortinet. So you got to realize certification will bias you in a way that's not real. So I'd keep the AZ305. That one looks good. I might keep one AWS one, kind of maybe one more, and get no more certifications. Now, the next thing is, and don't do any kind of SysOps certification ever unless your manager wants you to, because that's going to really kick you down a peg. And I'll explain why. The next thing to do is as follows. Make sure you really master Linux administration for the cloud engineer, because you're going to have to be a good engineer. You're going to have to know knowledge good. Almost every server on the internet is Linux, and you're going to need to know how to administer Linux, how to install applications, how to patch a kernel, how to install drivers. Well, not in the cloud, you won't be installing drivers too much, but the reality is the cloud engineer is going to be working on private clouds as well. And there, if you need to do some GPU pass-through for some machine learning applications and say a OpenStack cloud or a Nutanix cloud, you're going to have to know how to do that as well. So you got to be really good with Linux. Now, while architects don't code, cloud engineers sure do, and cloud engineers are going to need to be really good with Python. It also wouldn't hurt if a cloud engineer knows JSON as well, because they're going to be using that to create some IAM policies. Now, a cloud engineer is going to need to have solid infrastructure as code knowledge. Solid knowledge there. And they're also going to need to know networking, and don't get a certification to learn networking. Learn networking. For example, the AWS Advanced Networking, I wouldn't even call it an intro to junior level anything. It's too basic. Get real networking knowledge, meaning learn BGP, IP addressing, subnetting, and supernetting, switching technologies, NAT and all the NAT's use cases. Get pretty familiar with security concepts such as next generation firewalls, IDS, IPS systems, as well as identity access management platforms. Get good at bash shell scripting on Linux and Windows PowerShell scripting. And then you're going to have some solid cloud engineer skills, and master the command line interface if you're going to be a cloud engineer. But I'm going to tell you this right now. I don't know where you are in the world, but I expect in the US, the UK, and Canada to see a tremendous number of cloud engineer layoffs. Now, they're being rehired in places like India, where they can be hired at a much cheaper price due to strategic outsourcing. But with ChatGPT doing what it can do 50% of the cloud engineers' work. So I'd work on my social skills, my soft skills, my emotional intelligence and empathy, those kind of things. It'll make you go farther as a cloud engineer. And those people don't get laid off. They get hired and paid more and promoted. So that would be what I would focus on. Because I think the cloud engineer is a great thing to do. We need engineers to build our architects' designs. So love the cloud engineer. But make sure you learn those skills, not certification skills. Certification should be the last thing someone does, not the first thing. But avoid the sysops. And here's the reason I said avoid sysops. Sysops is by far the lowest paid salary of anyone that's out there. And it's more of a maintenance role. So unless you want to do maintenance on the technology, make sure that you understand that you should avoid a sysops role on any cloud provider.
All right. So Derek says, I joined 2 weeks ago and already life-changing.
Wonderful.
It's exciting to hear that, Derek.
Sure is. Wonderful, Derek. Thank you. Thrilled you're with us.
All right. I want to start this one off. Mr. Dominic, in one of your videos, you talk about cloud architect roles. Is it possible to be a generic cloud architect with a slight focus on application architecture, given that this is one of your passions? I think, like I said, I want to start this one off, but I think it would be important to know whether you're already familiar with that, or if you're starting fresh as a fresher. I think that would give me some perspective to get some answer, because if you're fresh, I would say you should only focus on what you need to become a cloud architect. But if you have some exposure, we have several examples of people that may have worked in applications before, and lo and behold, they got a job as a cloud application architect. Go figure. It's because they brought years of experience to the table related to that knowledge and tied it with their cloud architect. Same with database. We've got people that have years of database experience that wanted to move into cloud. Lo and behold, the cloud big data architect now. But they already had that. They already had that knowledge, and they already brought it to the table. Again, right. if you're fresh and you're new, and this is me, I'd love to hear what Mike and Alonzo have to say about this. I think you should focus on what it takes to become one. Mm-hmm. And then also, if there's anyone that's calling while we're on the YouTube, we will call you back when we're off the YouTube. Sorry, it's been ringing for like the past 4 minutes. But yeah, if you're new, focus on what it takes to become a cloud architect. What's necessary to be a cloud architect? You don't want to learn try to learn too many things and too diverse things at the same time. So I'd love to hear what Mike and Alonzo say.
And I'm going to go into this, Mr. Dominic. If your focus is application architecture, that's fine. You're not a cloud architect anymore. And a cloud application architect is an application architect. And whether they do it on the cloud or off the cloud, it's the same job. So it's still an application architect. Applications are 5% of the entire cloud. So if you want to focus on that, fine, but realize you won't be a cloud architect. Now, we also have cloud big data architects. You know what they are? Big data architects who happen to work on the cloud. They just stuck the word cloud in front of it because they work at a cloud provider. So if your goal is to be a cloud architect, applications aren't more than 5% of it. And if your focus is on applications, either make the decision to be an application architect and give up being a cloud architect, but you can't focus on one little component of it. So I don't know why you'd want to do that. Now, if you want to focus on something big like cloud networking or cloud security, there's going to be a lot of options and opportunities there. But you got to remember this. Programming is the worst specialty in applications in the world. So when we look at anything as it turns into career potential and salary, we have to look at supply and demand curves. When there's a shortage of qualified people, there's a high pay. When there's a surplus of qualified people, there's a low pay. Every university in the world for every computer professional teaches them how to code. So coders are commodities. So if you focus on application architecture side of this, realize you'll be at the lowest pay for the rest of your career, and you'll have the least options. Now, if you love that and want to be an application architect, great. It's about what makes you happy, but you can't be a generic architect focusing on applications. And here's what'll happen, Mr. Dominic, if you try. While you're focused on applications, you'll be missing the big picture. You'll miss the digital transformation. You'll miss the networking. You'll miss the security. You'll miss something so critical that everything's going to collapse, and you'll be replaced by someone who's focused on about the entire end-to-end big picture. So you got to pick one. Want to be an application architect? Great. Want to be a network architect? Great. Want to be a big data architect? Great. But you got to stick to it. You can't be all things. You can't have an Olympic sprinter like Usain Bolt decide to do bicycling on the weekend and be good at both because he finds it interesting. Pick something, stick to it, and be great at it. In the military, they have snipers, and they'll overwatch and do what they do. They have breachers who break into the room, knock the door down. Your sniper doesn't moonlight as a breacher, and your breacher doesn't moonlight as a sniper. They're totally different jobs, totally different training, and totally different focus. That's why a race car driver trains one way and a truck driver who drives long distance trains another. Different skill set.
Alonzo, any thoughts?
I couldn't agree. Mike is killing it. Just to underscore that, Mr. Dominic, is that you focus. You can't dabble a little bit here and there. Just be intentional with what you need. Be that all-encompassing cloud architect that knows knows what is supposed to elaborate on that with clients. So don't let that slight focus turn around and throw you off the overall track of being a cloud architect. So just want to emphasize that, because it's not an all or nothing. It's an all or nothing situation with an understanding that you may have some. You might be able to say a little bit here and there, but if you focus on the application and less on the cloud, then of course that makes you an application person instead of a cloud person.
Exactly. So glad you got it, Mr. Dominic. I can't wait till you're hired.
All right, so Varun asked about the timing of the live classes in the program. So currently, our live classes are on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, Thursdays at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And we put a lot of time into trying to figure out the timings of these classes, because we have such a wide student base that is in every single time zone in the world. So we had to find times that accommodate people throughout the world, as well as the times that our instructors can be accommodated. So we approached the class timings from the perspective of, if someone could attend at least one session per week alive, then the return for their investment is worth it. So we've got 3 classes a week, 3 different times, 3 different days to accommodate people throughout the world. So we understand that the 1 p.m. Eastern Time on a Friday is not the best time for the guys and the gals hitting the pub in the UK Friday evening when they get off of work. But the Thursday 4 p.m. would be at 9 p.m. in the UK. Tuesday at 10 a.m. would be 3 p.m. in the UK. And you can keep doing the math throughout the world. So we purposely spaced our classes out that way, just with the intention that if someone could attend one class then the return on investment is there for them. Now, something else, all of our classes are recorded and made available to you the same day. Granted, there's not any issues with the recording or the processing or the uploading, but all the classes are recorded. We've even had people that have been successful in reaching their career goals without even attending a live class.
It's true.
And just listening to the recordings and doing the programs completely self-paced without any interaction on live classes. Now they were still taking part with other students in the community and engaging with people and doing their assignments and doing their studying like they're supposed to. But they would listen to the classes on their bus rides to and from school or to and from work. So that's the schedule for our live classes.
And I want to add to that real quick. You know, and Chris is right. UK pub time is UK pub time. But we had a student, his name was Ian. He was one of my first students. He'd skip pub time to come to class. Not only is he hired now, he's on an accelerated path. We had Dibia in India and Umang in India. They came and it was totally miserable times for them. And they both have extremely good jobs right now. Now, lots of people have gotten hired that didn't do that, but I'm saying if you want it bad enough,
Make it
work. And as an architect, you know what? There's plenty of times I got to wake up in the middle of the night to talk to people in Japan or Hong Kong or Australia. So the classes are great, and we picked them for our times. Even if you got to one a week, it would be enough if you watch the recordings. But, you know, the key is if you want to occur bad enough, the more you can put into it, the more you'll get out of it.
All right. Let's see.
We've got to address our internal student David's question at some point. So it doesn't need to be now, but I'm sorry, Derek, make sure you stick around because we have to address that before we're done.
Well,
Yeah.
Because that's going to cost them $50,000, $60,000 of a mistake.
all right, well, let's just do it now since they want to skip the program and not.
Yeah, that's I don't think that can wait, Mike.
Yeah. So
Derek, what you said here is that you want to go do a certification and then come back to us. Please do not do this. I'm going to repeat it again. Do not do this. The average cloud architect earns $800 a day or $16,000 per month. If you waste 3 months to pass the certification, you will lose $48,000. No one will hire you on the basis of a certification ever. They will hire you on the basis of knowledge. We've got people like Delroy getting hired with 0 certifications. So here's the thing, Derek. If you go through our program and do the certifications in the end, they'll take almost no time because you'll be familiar with them. Or if you try to do them now, they'll take 3 times longer. Secondly, Derek, you might get hired with no certifications like the rest of our team. And if so, and you got hired 3 months earlier, you're $50,000 ahead for the average student. So don't cost yourself $50,000, go out there and get hired. So please do the training, work through the training. I'm going to tell you right now, 50% of the CCNA is completely irrelevant nonsense for your career as an architect. And in many cases, what's covered in the CCNA is nowhere near enough. And in those situations, we cover things, the BGP we cover is from the CCIE curriculum. So please do the course, focus on the course, give everything you have to the course. Because you can't cash the certification at the bank like a check, but you can once you're hired, get there. And if your employer, and that's something Alonzo says, but he's right. And if your employer wants you to have a CCNA, guess what? They'll ship you a good Cisco certification, spend $5,000 for the week to get proper training for it. But the key is I want you hired. Certifications are like the icing on the cake, but if you don't work on the cake, all you got is icing, and nobody eats icing out of a jar. So please focus on the course, focus on the course, focus on the course. And there was a game Monopoly. Do not stop and pass go. Go around that board as fast as you can. Do the certifications in the end or during, but don't delay your education. As Mark Twain said, don't let your training get in the way of your education. Don't let your certifications get in the way of you building a career. Sorry, I know I pulled that out of order, Derek, but I really care about our students and I want the best for you.
And this goes hand in hand with Alonzo saying the program works if you do.
Yeah.
part of the you do part is following the program. We got a question in the community, in the Slack community over the weekend, asking if they had to do the quizzes because it was not useful to them. And I was like, well,
We would not put
it
anything
is
in there that was
But
worth it.
then I went and looked at their quiz activity and saw that they passed it on their second try. So I was
Okay.
so the program works if you do it.
Yeah.
We have everything set up the way that we have for a reason. You've got Noah in the chat box who will say it works. He's working, so it works. And when I say he's working, he's an employed cloud architect.
Yeah.
So let's go. We've talked about this a little bit. A lot of cloud architect roles here in South Africa have coding and DevOps in the job description. Guess what?
Okay.
Guess what? It's not just in South Africa.
It's everywhere.
Everywhere. It's in freaking Antarctica and Mars also. You know, in Mars, they want humans who can breathe arsenic. And, you know, it's like, whatever. Okay.
Right.
But, you know,
Let's talk about
the job descriptions are meaningless. They are. We had an HR director on speak to our class last week, and someone asked that question about a job, and without hesitation, and I loved it. The candor was great. Without hesitation, he said, "I'll have to take a look at that job description. It was probably a bad copy and paste job." And I can't tell you for how long I've heard Mike say it and how long I've seen it, even outside of tech, that job descriptions are almost always horrible copy and paste jobs, regardless of the industry, regardless of the job. The job descriptions are horrible indicators of what the job actually is. Unless you happen to find someone that literally created it from scratch and made it exactly what it's supposed to be. That's hard to find.
It is. And, you know, I've never had more than 10% of anything on a job description, and I've never gone on an interview where I didn't get hired. So there's that. Now, I will tell you that for about 2 or 3 years, my buddies and I were actually using this as a comedy routine. I don't really drink a lot, but if I do, I have a Macallan. It's a Scotch, and I have the 25-year-old version instead of all my architect buddies. It's kind of like something we all did together at Cisco. And we would all get together on WebEx, not Zoom. Sorry, WebEx is what we use because we were at Cisco, even though I prefer Zoom. And we'd all start looking at these job descriptions while sipping Macallan 25. And it was the best comedy routine, and it was free. Now, it got so bad that Gartner, who pretty much is the experts on what's the most innovative technology, which career is going to pay the best, where's things going, they looked at these job descriptions and laughed just as much as we did. And they actually interviewed the CIO and said, what do you want in a cloud architect? Because we know your job descriptions are garbage. Now, in case you don't know, there's a CEO like me that sets the strategy. I have a chief operating officer that makes sure the company runs. I have a chief marketing officer that does marketing. I have a chief information officer that figures out all the technology that the company needs. Well, I need to hire one, and right now I'm fulfilling that role too. So you want to know who your boss is? The CIO, and the CIO. So you can look in CIO magazine. My team will provide the link. When Gartner asked, what do you want in a cloud architect? They said, look, someone that will lead the cultural change for cloud adoption, develop and coordinate a cloud architecture, that means design, developing a cloud strategy and coordinating the adoption process, finding talent with the necessary skills, assessing applications, software, and hardware, creating a cloud broker team, establishing best practices for cloud across the company, selecting cloud providers and vet third-party services, oversee governance and mitigate risk, work closely with IT security to monitor privacy and develop incident response procedures, manage budgets and estimate costs, and operate at scale. The only thing this job description is missing is that we spend a lot of money entertaining our clients by buying them lunches, dinners, and drinks with the company credit card, and it misses playing golf, which we often do as part of our job. But we don't touch the tech, ever cloud tech. And all my architects that are working at all these companies, they're like, Mike, I wasn't sure I believed you that we weren't going to touch the tech. All I do is respond to RFIs, RFPs, RFQs, take people for dinners and drinks, deliver presentations, and go to meetings. I go to meetings all day.
All right.
That's why we get our people hired every day, because we're teaching the actual job.
Yeah.
All right. So next question is from Jabril. Currently, I have my AZ-104 and AWS Solution Architect Associate, and I kind of stuck on finding a job because every job needs 5 to 10 years required experience. They also want 15 Olympic gold medals and 75 years of Kubernetes experience.
I thought it was 85, Chris.
It depends on if it's a startup, they'll take 75.
Yeah.
Jabril, it has nothing to do with your experience. I'm going to tell you right now. Nobody cares. They care about the following: competency, competency, and competency. I'll give you examples. Romanik Ivan Tamba, college student, was working as a waiter before we got him hired at AWS. Coyote, college student hired by AWS, and not for some silly associate architect job, a real architect job. Roy, 2 weeks ago, got hired as a senior solution architect with no tech background whatsoever. Noah, who's on this call, was working in social work, who got hired as a cloud architect, no tech experience. Vladimir got hired as a cloud architect with no tech experience. Balwinder was a stay-at-home mom who got hired with no tech experience. Jeffrey West was a power lifter who was in a totally different job doing geology, who got hired with no experience. Jennifer got hired as a cloud architect recently with no tech experience. Daniel Bosu didn't even graduate high school, and we trained him, and he got hired as a cloud architect at JP Morgan Chase with no experience. And I could give you example after example. I'm going to tell you, Jabril, there is nothing in the certification that will get you hired. Not the certified solution architect professional or anything else. All that is engineering, name of a service and how to configure, which architects don't do. So Jabril, please come to the free webinar tonight, and we will tell you how to get hired. Got lots of people hired with no experience, and it happens to us every day or almost every day. But it's about knowing the skills, and I'm going to tell you right now, I won't hire anybody based on certifications, and neither will any hiring manager. They'll hire you based on the right skills.
Yeah.
All right.
And that's just another thing about those certifications. If everyone is doing a certification, if everyone has this combination of AWS with Azure, Azure with GCP, Azure, GCP, AWS, and you're only going by these certifications, what sets you apart from anything else? So how are you going to expound on this if you say that you know just what the certs are teaching you? And nowadays, Chat GPT can sit and pass that examination. So if the AI can do the job just like you, why are you irreplaceable? So it speaks to why certifications, although it's frosting on the cake, it's your competency that speaks, that will set you apart from everyone else, especially with how you provide that delivery of excellence based on your presentation, emotional intelligence, and other skills that are necessary to do the role.
And it's the difference between asking you how to configure an S3 bucket, which is covered in a certification, versus a real architect problem. How would you design an IP addressing scheme for a company that's using the cloud for transit for 20,000 remote locations? Or how would you load share across 2 equal cost direct connections without getting out of order packets? Or how would you design an algorithmic training system for banks that a nanosecond of competitive advantage can equal $300 million per year? Or how would you design your demilitarized zone? And I can give you one of a million examples. That's architecture, and none of that's covered in the certifications. But tonight, we can tell you exactly what you need to do in our free webinar. Okay. And I gave you numerous examples of people that got hired with no experience.
All right. So I'm not going to address Vernon's question because we've been talking about it for the past 5 or 10 minutes. How could so? But this, Vernon, same thing we've been talking about applies to your question here. How can someone who hasn't had any previous business experience outside of the desire to learn be a cloud architect?
Vernon, I don't understand the question. So here's what I mean. You know, doctors don't have medical experience before they become doctors. Pilots don't have airplane flying experience before they have that either. They get trained.
So that question came in earlier. I'm just bringing it up so he realizes that we're not ignoring his question. It came in well before we've started our discussion about it. So.
Okay, but I just want to add a little bit more about that. Experience may be a good thing or a terrible thing. So when I was younger, I became a nurse practitioner, which is a nurse that's trained to practice medicine. I was part of an experimental program. And what I mean by this is they used to want nurses that had 10 years minimum of experience working as nurses before they would allow them into this transition program to learn how to practice medicine. Me and a girl named Trang were invited in, and we had zero nursing experience. We went to nursing school and immediately were taught to practice medicine in a master's degree. The rest of the people had lots of years of experience doing nursing things. Here's what happened. The people that had all this nursing experience, they had nursing experience and they learned some things along the way, but they were stuck in their way of doing things. Trang and I had zero. We had jobs lined up before we even graduated. And not only that, we both made it to the dean's 2 best students. Why? Because we weren't bogged down with experience. They gave us exactly what we needed to know, and we learned it, and we learned it correctly. So experience can be a blessing or a curse. Sometimes engineers tell us the hardest part of learning to be an architect is learning to forget the engineering. So it's a blessing because it gives you knowledge, but it also teaches you a different way of thinking and a different set of patterns. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Experience is not always irrelevant, and sometimes it can be a help and sometimes it can be a hindrance.
Alonzo, I'll let you read that one off. I'm having some issues.
Ficade, so my company is pretty much making me get the PSYOP cert. If I make 50,000 now, I'm assuming that's in dollars. What should I ask for once I get that? I am in Denver, Colorado.
Oh, Ficade, let me tell you this. This SysOps is the lowest paying career in all of tech. If you're making 50,000 now, you'll probably be making 50,000 after that certification, maybe 60 if you're lucky. And here's the reason. It's a behind the scenes role where you're doing maintenance. And no matter how smart you are when you're behind the scenes, you don't get any of the credit or the money because nobody thinks about you. So the further away you get from SysOps, the more money you'll make. So do the cert if they're paying for it, fine. Maybe get 60,000 out of it and get out of that company and get another job that's going to pay you more. Learn how to be an architect or learn how to be an engineer. For an architect, learn how to drive digital transformation. For an engineer, really learn how to build. But maintenance is the lowest paid part of any technology career anywhere. So if you like doing maintenance, great, but it's not going to change your salary very much. It's just not.
And also, Ficade, let's throw in good old ChatGPT and how that would negatively affect, because it's writing code. It's building 3-tier architecture by us just asking for it. So when you think about human error, human effort, human needing to sleep while ChatGPT is running code and building and patching up things while you're asleep, it kind of reduces your not necessarily your personal value, but the value of the job itself, to the point where it could be an issue 5 to 10 years down the line. So we definitely recommend, if you enjoy architecture, you're considering architecture, we definitely think you need to shift over into that, because the more automated your job can be, the more chances of it being phased out.
So I'm going to put a follow-up up here from the same person. So you keep putting sysops down, but those people are needed, aren't they? Do you see many layoffs in those positions? So
Well,
I don't think it's a matter that we're not putting the position down. We're just being honest about our assessment of the position. Of course, this came in before before we just had our bit of discussion. So you probably think we put it down even more.
Yeah, we're not putting it down.
That's not the
at
case.
all.
We're not trying to put sysops down.
No.
We're just this is the reality that we see of the role, and obviously the individuals that do these roles are I'm sure amazing and great people, very competent people. But the reality is that the more advanced our technology gets, the more automated a lot of these things can become, and what might have taken 10 people now can be done by one person. What might have taken 100 people can now be done by 5 people. You just keep doing it. What could have been done by 1,000 is now done by 50 or maybe 100 on a good day. There's a reason that the same week that Microsoft announced that they were going to be laying off 10,000 people, literally the same week, that they announced they were going to be laying off 10,000 people, it became public that they were investing $10 billion into OpenAI.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy to see where this is going. So it's not that we're not trying to put it down. It may come across like that, but this is the reality of these roles, and it's not just sysops. It's sysadmin, even cloud engineers, software engineers, anything that requires something that can now be automated to any degree. And the farther away you get from the human interaction and the nuances of the human nature, the more difficult it's going to get in the long term to stay in those roles without adapting and improvising. Now, if you want to be in sysops, be the best sysops there ever is and ever was and ever will be, and you will be fine.
Exactly. And the other reason you may hear us talking about it is it's not putting sysops down. There have been many people that want to be architects that were advised to study sysops. And since that's the exact opposite of architecture, we've had many students that have literally spent 3 months doing a SysOps certification because a certification provider told them to do it. And then they go on interviews and no one will hire them. And then we have to remove it from the resume and they get hired almost immediately. So the key is if you want to be SysOps and you like doing maintenance, great, be the best darn SysOps professional in the world and focus on your communication skills, leadership skills, and business acumen. And then it won't be a $60,000 job, it'll be a $160,000 job because you'll be an executive that happens to know operations and administration. So it's that. But you asked us how much it pays and what you can get more after the certification. And we're just saying that it's back end, and back end people are always paid.
Good. I'm glad you see that, Fakade. We're never putting anyone down, but we want everyone to have all the information that they need to make very intelligent decisions about their career and their future.
All right. So we've got plenty of questions that we have to get to, but we've got to take a break. We need to get some water. We need to rest our voices for a second. So give us about a minute. Not long. We're going to just give us a minute, and we'll be right back, everybody. So give me just 1 second so that you're not too bored. I got 1 minute and 20 seconds is what I got for you. So we'll be right back, and we'll get right back to these questions. So if we haven't gotten to yours yet, it's coming right back. I promise.
Hello, everyone. This is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there.
All right, everybody. So we are back. I told you we'd be back. We really just needed just a second. I had to get my coffee. Everybody else probably got their water. So let's get back into these questions.
Love answering questions.
All right. Let me find my. Let's see. So I'm going to start off with this, and then we'll get to their question. Happy J313 says, I'm getting ready to do my 30-second video and my 5-minute video from the orientation, which is the About Me, their first assignment. So getting ready. Now, don't forget about the written part of that. There's 3 parts. You got to write about yourself. You got to give your what we call an elevator pitch about yourself. And you got to give 5 minutes about yourself. So
yes, Happy J 313. You're from my hometown, so I'm expecting great things from you.
Yep. Yeah. All right. So now my competency is in voice video, as I am a voice field engineer. I want to stay in that industry, but how can I transform into a cloud architect? What advice can you give in the
Unified communications as a service world?
there we go.
Okay.
So happy. So do you want to be a cloud architect or do you want to be a voice architect? If you want to be a cloud architect, focus on the cloud. If you want to be a voice architect, focus on the voice. Now, Happy, I'm going to make this very clear to you. There's an expression, would you like fries with that? I have friends that go to fast food restaurants and they say, would you like fries with that? Unified communications as a service, software as a service is like McDonald's. You get it the way it is. Now, if you've got voice and video experience and you're used to setting up your own encoders and you're used to setting up your own call managers and IPP-based PBXs and setting up quality of service, for example, on the network, that is the best. It was the best 20 years ago. It's the best today, and it'll be the best 20 years from now. And here's the reason why. On the cloud, no QoS. On the cloud, no guarantees that their systems aren't oversubscribed. And I promise you they're oversubscribed. On the cloud or any unified communications as a service or collaboration as a service, it will always be substandard. So the advice that I would give you is learn how and when those applications can be applied towards business. And then as an architect, you're going to need to figure out which voice engineers you need and voice architects. If they need the best, and they're going to need computer telephony integration and screen pops and all these other things that integrate with do not call, you're going to need a real voice architect, and chances are it's not going to be unified communications as a service. If it's a small business that's looking for a simple way to outsource their phones, unified communications as a service is fantastic. So the key is, my advice for you is to learn business, learn the network in the data center, and I bet you've got some networking as a voice engineer, especially if you're working with IP voice, a little different than if you're working on the traditional switches, but still it's there. So learn the cloud, learn how the business can solve, how that cloud can be applied to business problems, learn how technology can be applied to business problems, learn how you can solve business problems and make businesses more profitable, increasing revenue, become more operationally efficient. And then figure out, if you want to integrate unified communications as a service but in your things or traditional unified communications. So I wouldn't be focusing on unified communications as a service if I wanted to be a cloud architect, because what you're going to do is miss 95% of the cloud. So you kind of have to figure out what you want to be. If you want to be a voice architect on the cloud, that's fine. And I can promise you there is some opportunity for that. But it's going to be at a much lower pay than a regular cloud architect, and it's going to have much less opportunity as a regular cloud architect. So it's up to you, but my advice would be, you got two choices, Happy. Focus on your business acumen and find yourself in a $500,000 plus career like the ones I showed you earlier, or focus on your tech skills on a subset of the technology and limit your career and limit your future advancement. Personally, I want to make my customers successful. I don't care if it's an ice machine, for example, that makes them more successful, a new process redesign, taking their data center and turning it into an OpenStack or an Nutanix cloud, sticking them on 3 clouds at the same time. I don't care if it involves bringing in sushi every day. If it's going to make them more efficient, I'm going to bring it in. I'm a cloud architect who focuses on the enterprise, and all I want to do is make my customers successful. I'm not privy to any kind of technology. I am technology agnostic. I will use whatever tool I have to the job to deliver the best success for my customers. And if you do that, Happy J313, after a couple of years, you will get people reaching out to you every single day competing to hire you. Why? Because they know they can trust you. Once you start babbling off Cisco terms or AWS terms, you look like a hammer in search of a nail. You look like you're biased. But if you can just make your customers successful, wow, they will love you. Your name will spread. And every day, people will try to give you a $300,000 to $500,000 job. Every day. Sometimes more.
We had what was that, Mike? A $800,000
architect job.
Architect job. I had to do a double take myself.
All right. So let's see here. James T says, my job offers in-house training to become an enterprise architect within the company. How much deviation and skill set training is there between that and a security architect?
A tremendous amount. Security architect, security policy, demilitarized zones, data loss protection, identity and access management. Enterprise architect, how do I make the business more profitable? So a security architect is about 50% tech, 50% business. An enterprise architect is 80 to 100% business and 10 to 20% tech. So massive, massive difference. You know, I've trained a lot of enterprise architect jobs this year, but think of an enterprise architect as an MBA that knows technology, with or without the official MBA. And think of a security architect as an expert on security and designing security solutions. So major difference.
Right. Let's see. There we go. Could you take it again on the most lucrative and in-demand cloud architect role? Also, can someone get a job in the US or Canada from South Africa?
So a couple of things. We've had students get cloud architect jobs. We had a student, Benedict, who very recently moved from Nigeria over to Canada. We love Benedict. He's incredible from a networking on a cloud perspective. We had Arun, who moved from India to Canada while he was in our program, and they got hired as a great cloud architect, fantastic guy. And we've had lots of students that were in Nigeria. I think Andrew went from Nigeria to the UK. So the answer is yes, it can happen. Is it the easiest process? Not necessarily, but it happens every single day. The most lucrative cloud architect roles are always the ones that are focused on the business. The most in-demand roles, I'm going to tell you right now, there are so many techies out there that want to be architects. And we had a director at AWS come to our class last year and say why he loved our program so much. And he said, I love it because of the focus on soft skills, business, leadership, emotional intelligence. He said, that's what I need in an architect. Chris and I recently spoke with a chief information officer from another company because he tried to hire one of our students as an enterprise architect. The student declined it, and he wanted more students like ours. And he said very clearly, I don't want a techie, I want an architect. I want someone that understands design communication. Recently spoke to another VP of recruiting, and he said, I like your architects because they present themselves well and they understand the business. He said to me, we keep getting techies that apply to be architect roles, but I don't want an engineer, I want an architect. Give me that business skills, give me this. And then we had a company that has several hundred open positions just come to our class last week and talk about architecture roles. And it's the same thing. This is a finesse job, a smoothness job. Gather information. They kind of want you to be like James Bond. You're like the international man or woman of mystery. You jump on an airplane, you talk to somebody, you communicate with them. But yes, the closer you are to the business, the more it's going to pay. And it's also the rarer the skill set.
I've been an end-to-end digital consultant for the last 14 years, dealing with C-level executives, creating roadmaps, MVP, KPI, then implementing release-wise products. Okay, with 60 plus resources. How do I position myself?
So I don't know what you mean by implementing release-wise products. Meaning, does another team do it? I can't understand what you're actually asking there. So if you could put it more clearly, I know what key performance indicators are. I have no idea what MVP is. So I will tell you, as architects, we don't use acronyms ever because it causes confusion. And I also don't know what a digital consultant is either, because that's a term that encompasses 20 different careers. So on your limiting character. So on one thing, if you could tell me what you actually did. And another one, tell us, well, what you actually did as a job. Meaning, was it an architect? Was there engineering involved? Whatever it was. And then the next one, if you can tell us what release-wise products are. And did you implement it or did another team implement it? So I don't know where to begin with this.
All right. Our next question says, what projects will be covered and how will they help to land a good job?
Okay, so first, are we referring to our training? I'm not sure. Secondly, I want you to understand the difference between projects for architects and projects for engineers. An engineering project is go build something. An architecture project is to design something. They're not the same. My students do a lot of architecture projects, and they do some building projects too. An architecture project is how would you design, and my students will do this, an architecture for a global bank. My students will do this. My students might design an architecture if they were going to start a new social media firm, and they'll do it. My architecture students will learn how to design, present, and sell it back to us in architecture for a global retailer. My architects will work on how to design systems for hospitals. My architects will design businesses for service providers. My architects will do a tremendous number of projects and like that, because that's what architects do. Now, guess what? Architects deliver presentations every day in their job, so my students will be doing presentation projects. Architects respond to RFIs, RFPs, and RFQs. That's what we do. We don't touch the text. So guess what my students will be doing? Writing projects like RFIs, RFPs, and RFQs. Our students will be encouraged to write thought leadership documents, just like we do as architects. Now, I do have my students do some technical projects, and here's the reason why. Doing technical projects as an architect is completely meaningless, but it could be because we don't touch the tech ever. But if this way, if somebody ever asks you if you can do it, we're there. So we do about 20 labs on AWS, or same as labs as any certification provider would do, just to say we did them. We do about the same 20 labs on Azure just to say we did them. Now, what does an architect really do? They design the plan to take the stuff from the network and data center and move it to the cloud. Now, what's missing in all cloud training is it doesn't deal with the network and the data center. You can't move it, you don't understand. So my students will set up server virtualization, containers. They'll be setting up firewalls, remote access systems like VPN concentrators. They'll be building LAMP stacks and things like that, setting up Active Directory servers the hard way so they truly understand it. And then my students will build the cloud. And that way, when everybody else is doing these silly certification labs, my students will build the cloud. And here's the reason why. Every one of my students could build AWS or Azure, the entire cloud from scratch. And I make my students do it. And that way, when everybody else there is like, I set up an S3 bucket, and the hiring manager's like, yeah, I taught a 6-year-old to do that in 3 minutes. What can you really do? My students can say, I could design and build the entire AWS cloud and then resell that cloud to others. And my students all build themselves their own cloud. So we give them the real projects, the architecture projects. Then we give them the data center projects. We give them the cloud projects. And then my students all build the cloud. And you can't build the cloud without a data center. A cloud provider won't let you do it because it's too taxing on their resources. But those are the kind of things we do. Lots of whiteboarding sessions. All that stuff is included. Team projects, we do that. Sales projects, presentation projects. My students do all of it. And that's why our program is well over 500 hours, because it covers the entire career. And why do we build their own cloud, even though cloud architects don't touch the cloud? Well, here's what hiring managers want, everybody. Someone that's energetic, enthusiastic, passionate about the work, competent, willing to go above and beyond. So who's more competent? A little child that set up an S3 bucket or someone that built the cloud? Who's more motivated? Someone that can build an S3 bucket or someone that can build and design their own cloud, which will have its own object storage included in it? Who's more energetic, enthusiastic, and passionate? Well, hey, I built a cloud versus I touched the cloud. That's why we do it. It's to get the hiring managers to basically see our people and recruit them, and they do every single day.
Yeah, and just to give an example about what type of projects are going to be done. Our architect classes for the next 2 weeks are going to be a group project based on a business case that is presented to the students tomorrow. And in class tomorrow, they'll be presented a business case, and then they'll be broken up into random groups to design a solution that fits that business case and that particular business's needs. And then they have to present that solution back to the stakeholders. So that's just one example of like what type of project will be done.
But that's a real project. That's what we do in real life.
Right, exactly.
Perfect time to join too.
Yeah, if you join today, you get to join. You get to take part in that.
Perfect time. And you get so much real world experience. You talk about how to incorporate, how to learn how to architect, how to work with other different people from different cultures, different backgrounds, being able to participate, step up, observe. There's so many opportunities to succeed there. So I would definitely recommend not missing that opportunity.
Yeah. So we got about another 30 minutes that were available here. We'll stick around as long as there's questions up to another 30 minutes. So if you've got questions, make sure to put them in the chat box. I still have some to get to, but I just wanted to go ahead and give everybody that warning, that we got about 30 more minutes. Also want to remind everybody that we have our How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. We're doing a special evening session tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So you can register for that. The link is in the chat box. The link is in the description. You can register for that. We'll tell you all about how to become the cloud architect, how we train people to become a cloud architect, a tried and true and proven method that's worked for so many people. We'll tell you everything you need to know, what cloud architects do, what hiring managers want. So make sure to join. And then, of course, also through tomorrow. Tomorrow's the last day of our 60% off. We've had this in place since January the 13th or January the 14th. I can't remember what day of the week. Yeah, January 13th. That was a Friday. Okay. So that was it will be no longer available after tomorrow. So make sure to take advantage of that 60% off while it's available. It will be the last time that you can ever enroll in the Cloud Architect Career Development Program for less than $1,000. So I'm going to pivot from that into a question that would naturally come after that. I'm highly considering the Cloud Architect Career Development Program. Can you give me a quick rundown on what is offered? See, sure. I got these things perfectly synced up.
Sure, the program is between 500 and 700 hours, and it's a combination of live classes 3 days per week, which we record in case you can't make it. A tremendous amount of education and teaching you how to become an architect, everything from the business side of architecture, the communication skills side of architecture, the presentation skills side of architecture, the leadership side of architecture, the sales side of architecture, and as well as how to interview for a cloud architect job and get hired, and even how to negotiate a higher salary. And most of our students get about a 6-figure raise over their previous job, and some of them negotiate an additional $20,000 to $30,000 just from our negotiation training. Mm-hmm. On top of that, we will cover all aspects of designing hybrid cloud and hybrid multi-cloud architectures. Nobody uses a single cloud. So we will teach you how to design multi-cloud architectures. We will teach you how to solve business problems. We will teach you how to do the presentation, interview. We will teach you how to design real-world architectures. And we spend hundreds of hours doing it because that's what it takes.
That was awesome. By the way,
but while we're at it, we'll teach you the Azure cloud to the solutions architect expert level, but 10 times more than that. We'll teach you the AWS certified solution architect professional, but 10 times deeper than that. We'll give you everything from the BGP, which you need to understand, to the next generation firewalls. We will cover security in depth. And then from there, we will polish you up. I have a marketing executive that will help you reach a brand so that by the time you follow our resume and interview guidance, expect to 5 to 15 people a week to reach out to you to try and hire you. And your biggest challenge will be, as it is for most of our students, is once you do that, you get bombarded. So we ask you not to do that until you're close to being ready to be hired, because we don't want you to get harassed by people and go on interviews until you're ready.
Yeah. And we just had a great branding session about 2 weeks ago, where it will really tie in once you're done with the overall gist of the course, how we're gonna polish you up and definitely make you a very presentable candidate for any prospective client or customer, or rather company that you want to work for. So it'll be a lot of fun.
All right. So
You'll be hired in our program, not when you're done the program.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to go a little out of order here. Real quick, James T asked about cycles. We do not operate in cycles.
Mm-hmm.
You are thrown right in and join everybody in progress. It's immersive training, just like you would in sports, martial arts, medicine, tried, true, proven method of training. So you can enroll today or re-enroll since you're a previous student that you need to get started back. Send an email to the email address that I provided to you so that we can get you started back on track and hit the ground running. Talking Gorilla asked, how much is the price? Our price for our award-winning Cloud Architect Career Development Program is regularly $24.99. Currently available through tomorrow, since January 13th through tomorrow, it's been available for 60% off. So with the 60% off discount, it's available for $9.99. That discount ends tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a discount going on. Yes, $1,999, less than $1,000. And that gets you 3 live classes a week for an entire year. So 150 live classes, 152-hour sessions. So 300 hours worth of training for less than $1,000. In addition to all of our on-demand content and everything. Anthony says, what is the biggest difference? What's the biggest difference you noticed in your most successful students?
Oh man.
Focus.
Lots of focus.
I would add determination after that, but focus. Because determination without focus, anything without focus.
And confidence that they can do the job. There is no, what do they call it? What is that term that people are unsure of about being?
Imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome. They are clear of that. They are free of that, and they're confident.
Yeah, I think focus. There's a reason why the beginning part of our career development program goes about us or about you. What are your goals? What do you want to be? And then building your plan. Like that they're literally those are the order that they go in. And I know you know this, Anthony, but we do that because the focus is so important. There's so many alternatives out there that are trying to do sysops and cloud architect and cloud engineer all at the same time, and it's like, what? No, this is like that's like a shotgun. We need a sniper rifle. I mean, just no focus.
You can't.
There one thing you want to do.
Unicorns.
Yeah, focus on the one thing you want to do, and put all your time, effort, energy, and potentially even money into it. That's what I did, and that's how you become great at something.
So
and move everything else to the side.
So, like I said, I went out of order on that one because I thought that was an important question to get to. So I'm going to go back to order here. Make sure I get back to order here. I did that. Okay, we talked about that one. All right. Okay. Oh, we did that one. Okay, here was the next one. All right. Because we did the one asking about what projects we covered, right?
Well, yeah, but we still don't know what this is.
Okay, we did answer this one, and then we asked for some more clarity. We're waiting on the clarity. Let me see if I got the clarity. Nope, can't answer it because we haven't gotten the clarification that we asked for. So
you didn't, but we had a response that I do want to address.
A response.
Someone tried to help us and translate what he thought he meant.
All right, I was going to ignore all those because I don't. That's.
And I wanted to address that. A doctor, an architect, a lawyer, and they all get paid the same thing. We can never assume anything, and we can never guess. If a doctor assumes, people die. If a lawyer makes mistakes, somebody loses a lot of money, goes to jail. And as architects, unless we are sure, we will design something wrong. I so appreciate the effort to try and help us more than you can possibly know. But as an architect and someone that used to practice medicine, I need to hear it directly from the person exactly what they mean. Because I used to play this game called Whisper Down the Lane with my friends. It was really kind of fun. I would tell someone would tell somebody else what I said, somebody would tell us. And by the time we got to the end, there was nothing there. So it's all about, precision and true exact knowledge. And that's why I say the most important skill for an architect is actually communication, because without it, we make major, major mistakes. So I've spent about 25 years in tech, and most of the work I've done was actually fixing somebody else's mistakes, because they either were a jack of all trades and didn't know what they were doing, or somebody miscommunicated something to someone along the way. And what was built was totally unrelated to what was designed. So deeply appreciate the help, but please, guys, make sure you really get the right information, and it'll change outcomes.
Yep, and I'm not sure how to pronounce the individual's name, but if that individual would like to provide the clarification, we're more than happy to answer it. Let me pull it back up. Just again, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, so I'm sorry. I'm not going to attempt. But the individual that was asking about their 14 years of end-to-end digital consultancy, if you're able to provide us some more clarification about what you did, what exactly the end-to-end digital consultancy was, what do you mean by MVP? We are assuming, the only assumption that we're making is that KPI is key performance indicators. Right. If you can share with us MVP, what exactly you mean by implementing release-wide products, and give us some more clarity, because we want to make sure we actually answered your question and not make assumptions about what you're talking about. So I just wanted to call that back out in case they are still here. If you give us that clarification, we'll answer the question.
Because I could give you 10 things that MVP means. Everything from minimum viable product to most valuable player to 10 other tech ones. So that's another reason why acronyms are a problem.
All right, and Douglas shared, choosing to work and train with Mike is the best decision I've made in my life, next to choosing my spouse. All right, well, I can't.
That says a lot.
Thanks, Douglas. We are honored and thrilled and love working with you. Yep. And yes, I think choosing my spouse was probably the best decision I ever made too.
Yeah, I could say that definitely. And your microphone capabilities are awesome too, Douglas.
Yes, thank you for the tips. In case you can't tell, we're wearing them like you told us to. Let's see. Just scrolling. Eric says, thankful for this session. Glad to hear that. All right. Just Create didn't get to ask their question, but apparently we were answering it while they were getting ready to ask it. So I'm glad we were able to answer the question. Adam asked if this was live. I responded in the chat box, but yes, this is live. Anthony, there isn't another program like it in the world. Oh, and Happy Jay, thank you. When I was talking about the pricing, thank you. I forgot to mention, yes, you can split the payments. We have a 3-payment plan option. Currently, 3 equal payments of $346. Again, only available through tomorrow. And then at that point, the 60% will go away.
Forever.
Maxie, I've got something to say about this. I'm studying 7 hours per day, Monday to Monday, never missed a class, started participating. Wow. My goal is to have the post-cloud hire interview and share my journey. All right. I hope you got it structured, though. I hope there's some structure, some breaks, some pacing, and some meals and some yoga, maybe some meditation, some maybe taking a break and reading about, heck, maybe if you're doing 7 hours a day, maybe you need to go read a comic book for a little bit at some point. But hopefully there's some pacing in there.
But that dedication is impressive.
Yeah, focus. I think this was in response to our talking about focus.
That's focus. That's how I got hired. Good job, Maxie.
AA's got it there. That's what's up. Focus. Yep. Only way to do it. Yep. Yeah. Just make sure you do it the right way. Completely immersing yourself in something without, especially if it's completely new, you might need to take some breaks.
Yeah. But
And when I say take a
repetition is
break,
key.
I mean like go take a walk or like I said, do some exercise, do some things just to let it absorb for a little bit. All right, so we've got our last question. We're here. If you've got more questions, ask us. But currently, our last question from James T. Would having a degree, undergrad, or master's enhance your hireability? Depends.
Yeah.
On the degree.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Completely depends on the degree. I'll let Mike talk. I got a feeling if Mike talks, he's gonna take away mine and Alonzo's words. So we'll let Mike go.
Yeah.
so here's the thing, James T. We got Daniel Bose who hired with 0 experience and he didn't graduate high school. We got Delroy Batt hired as an example, and he has an associate degree. And I can tell you, he got a really good job. Now, as a rule, having a degree is helpful because it shows that you're committed to do something. Now, the best degree for cloud architect work is in Master's in Business Administration. But generally speaking, if you have some degrees, it looks great. Now, if you had 6 degrees, it would be as bad as if you had 10 certifications because it would make you look like an academic that has no focus. So yes, education is a good thing. And having an undergraduate degree is helpful. Having a master's degree is helpful. It doesn't matter what it's in. My bachelor's is in nursing, my master's is in nursing, and my second master's is in business administration. That helped me. The key is competency matters. Communication skills matter. Soft skills matter. Leadership skills matter. Executive presence matters. CXO relevancy matters. Degrees and certifications, they're just like icing on the cake, but by themselves they're not enough for anything.
All right, so Khalid, I think it looks like they just joined. Many companies are hiring cloud architects require cloud job experience. No, they don't. How this course will help overcome the issue. So they don't require it. It's just on a worthless job description.
Yeah, but
And
and
then it's used as an excuse not to offer you a job when you bomb an interview. So they don't require the experience. We can give you countless examples of people that we've been able to help get a cloud architect jobs without any previous cloud experience. The experience is not necessary. Now, how will the program help overcome this? By helping you with your competency and helping you build the brand of someone that is competent. So you could have all the competency in the world, but if you don't have the brand and you can't communicate that competency, then you're not going to get the job. No. So we take a holistic approach in our training where you've got the competency and then you have the emotional intelligence and the ability to convey that competency. And you've got the brand that reflects all of this accurately.
And the world comes to you.
Exactly. And then the world comes to you. And you completely bypass human resources and you completely bypass the artificial intelligence that has no clue that your application is the appropriate one because they're judging your application against a worthless job description that doesn't describe what the actual job is. So if you go to HR with the perfect resume and the perfect brand through their AI applicant tracking system, you're most likely going to get rejected because it doesn't match the worthless job description. And then, again, as I referenced, also, if you do get the interview and then you're told you don't have enough experience, it's not because you don't have enough experience.
No.
Yeah.
It's because you bombed the interview.
Yes.
It's because maybe you didn't bomb it, but you just didn't do well. I'm using bomb to cover to all encompassing.
You didn't get the job.
You didn't get the job. It has nothing to do with your experience. And let me tell you why. Because I, as a hiring manager, don't have enough time to interview people who don't even have enough experience on the piece of paper. If I actually cared about experience, then it better be on the piece of paper. But it's something in your piece of paper, in your brand, in your resume that told me, okay, I should utilize my precious time, at least an hour of my day, And even though your interview might only be 15 or 20 minutes or 30 minutes, it's taken an hour of my day because I have to get prepared for the interview, and then I have to get out of the interview mindset and then back to work. So it's going to take an entire hour out of my day to interview one person. So there's something that I wanted. And if you don't have experience and I got you to an interview, obviously it's not the experience. The experience doesn't matter. I'm interviewing you. I'm wasting an hour of my day. Not wasting. I'm utilizing an hour of my day. I think you have what it takes based off of your brand, based off of your resume. So if at that point I then tell you you don't have enough experience, it's because you didn't do well in the interview. You did not communicate effectively your competency, or you faked your resume and your brand and you don't have the competency to back it up.
It's always sorry.
Yeah.
It's always sorry, we keep not saying, but it's always an example of this. I don't know how many people I need to parade on the show that have got hired with no experience.
Well, he joined late, so.
Okay. Last week we had Wallace on our YouTube channel who got hired beyond the cloud architect. He was hired as an enterprise architect, which is senior. We had Roy 2 weeks ago that got hired by Deloitte as a senior cloud architect, never worked in tech. Earlier today, we had Noah Parker, our student who just got hired who never worked in tech. We had Vladimir, 24-year-old college student who just got hired, never worked in tech. We have Jennifer over at JP Morgan Chase, mental health tech, now working as a cloud architect. We had Daniel Bose, who didn't even graduate high school, hired at JP Morgan Chase as a cloud architect. We have Delroy Bad over at CDW, no experience in tech, hired as a cloud architect. Valwinder, who was a stay-at-home mom, hired by Microsoft as a cloud solution architect. We had Jeffrey West, hired by Caliant, no tech background whatsoever, as a cloud architect. We have Ivan Tamba working at AWS, and he's come to my YouTube channel numerous times. Never worked in tech before, hired as a cloud architect. We had Coyote hired as a cloud architect, and I can give you example after example. But it's because, like Chris said, we're holistic about it. We have a brand. I was in 95 magazines in the last 12, 13 months that wrote about our enormous success rate. We were rated #1 in cloud computing education by Stellar Business. So what we do is very different than what others do, and that's why our students get hired. And a lot of it has to do with Alonzo's branding expertise. He's so good with building brands that people come to our students and aggressively recruit them just because they're part of Go Cloud Careers. You know anything there, Alonzo? Because you see it every day.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's just, it will transform you inside and out. You will definitely be everything that the company is looking for, because you're going to be able to ascertain what's going on before the interview through recon. You're going to ascertain what's happening during the interview. We're going to teach you how to pivot, move, adjust, be able to control the interview so that you're going to be able to provide answers and solutions to people, to the interviewer, before you're able to, before they even know what they're looking for. So we make sure that you're well prepared and you're going to have everything that you need to be successful in that interview, so that we can have you walking out of there with a shaking hand for you got the job, or you get that phone call saying, we want to hire you.
I'm going to get us a warning siren sound so that I can, let me see, do I have a warning siren sound? I need a warning siren sound, because let's see, I got no warning siren. I need a warning siren, and this is why I need warning sirens. Let me see. Okay, here we go. Warning, warning, warning. Thanks, I just joined the session, you're right. One more thing is the program qualifies to AWS Associate or Professional or Beginner, Advanced, in other words. Sounds like we're talking about certifications here.
Yeah, so Khalid, if your focus is certifications, then you'll never be hired with no experience. And
change your mindset. Change your mindset.
When people come to us with certifications, we pretty much have to teach them to forget everything they learned in the certification, because the certification is teaching basic engineering and not architecture.
Yeah.
So we take anyone regardless of their background. When people have no experience, they're a fresh, clean slate with no bad habits. When they have 10 years of engineering experience, it's often harder for them, because even if they understand the tech, they don't understand how to design the tech, right. And they're so used to focusing on the tech that it's just as bad. I will tell you from experience, the people that I have with 20 years experience, when we get them hired, typically get jobs between $250,000 and $300,000 a year. And they tell us that, Mike, the hardest part was learning how not to be an engineer. And when I've got people with no experience, they tell me like, wow, I had to learn the tech. It was a lot easier than I explained because we don't touch it. So the key is knowing what the job actually is and training for it correctly. I've got students getting hired as a senior solution architect as the first job, or an enterprise architect. We don't have anybody getting basic jobs like associate cloud architects. They're full architect roles. Then again, we spend between 500 and 700 hours in our training. And we train people to be excellent and great at the job.
All right. So now currently our last question, since I picked on people and make them ask questions. It's a two-parter. It's 2 parts. Mike, if you may provide some feedback on your experience working with and training the various degrees. For example, have you worked with a liberal arts major? Yes. Business major? Yes.
Yes.
STEM? Yes. Differences and similarities of what you liked or did not like. Who was the most competent and best communication?
It all depends on what people did in their life. Again, education is just education. It doesn't say anything. I will tell you the people that are easiest to get hired, people from a medical background and a sales background, because they're typically great at it. That last solution architect that we had was selling consumer product goods, and he got a senior solution architect job without ever working in tech. They're the easiest. Who are the hardest? The people with the deepest technical backgrounds that are used not to talking to people. The people that you have to beg to talk and turn on their camera. They're the hardest. But it's really about the person, how willing they are to just listen to someone that's been an expert. Like, a lot of people want to ask for a syllabus, and it's kind of a joke, because unless you've actually been an architect, you won't even know why the syllabus is made the way it is, because you just don't know what you don't know. So I'd say everybody that wants to learn has the capability to learn. Everyone. It's just, the key is are you in the position to open your mind, follow directions, and be great at it? But I would say salespeople are the easiest.
Yeah, I don't think the education matters. I think it's what have you done? And sometimes the education can lead to detrimental things. Like, I could be the most outgoing person, but I could have 4 years of education in something that makes me less outgoing, and that could be detrimental. Or I could be the most introverted person, and I have 4 years of education in something that's made me extroverted. Like, maybe I studied real estate and insurance. And I'm an introvert. Well, during the course of that study, I'm going to become a little bit more extroverted because I was learning real estate and insurance. I'm going to have to interact with people.
Exactly.
Okay, well, we'll close out with one that doesn't relate to anything that we're talking about. What is the best programming language to learn if I want to work in blockchain?
Well,
I don't know how to answer that, so
I can't either. Otherwise, my advice would be probably try not to work in blockchain right now. I don't think it's an industry that's rapidly growing. I think it's an industry that's strongly struggling. But I can't. I always guide people to avoid programming careers for the following reasons. Programming is a commodity. And what I mean by a commodity is everybody that goes to college and learns programming that's in a tech program, which means there's millions and millions and millions of programmers. And if we understand supply and demand curves, the more common the skill or the supply, the much lower the price. So programmers are going to be some of your lowest paid people. ChatGPT and other technologies can now code better than programmers in most cases and a whole lot faster. And they don't ask for time off. They don't ask for overtime. They don't ask about work-life balance. And they sure don't ask for a raise. So anything that's related to programming, I would strongly advise get out of. I think you're going to see a lot more programming layoffs, and you'll see a tremendous number of architects being hired at the same time. As artificial intelligence can do all this stuff, we need many more people that can actually put the pieces and parts together to solve a customer's problem. Huge need for architects, but I would stay far away from programming careers if I was you.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us. I want to thank Mike and Alonzo for joining me and taking the time to answer everyone's questions. I want to remind everybody and ask Tyrone if he would to share the link to the webinar that we are going to be doing. We do a webinar tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. You see I got it up here at the top up here. On this webinar, we're going to talk about everything that you need to know to become a cloud architect, regardless of your experience, or your age, or anything that you think might be holding you back, or that could potentially hold you back. There's nothing that can hold you back except you. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what hiring managers want. We're going to talk about what cloud architects do. We're going to talk about HR and those worthless job descriptions.
Yeah.
HR is great, but the job descriptions not so much. And then we're going to talk about what you actually need to learn. We're not going to be able to teach it all to you, but we're going to talk about what it is that you need to learn so that you can become a cloud architect. You can learn from us, joining our program, or you can do it on your own. We'd love for you to do it with us. It'll be easier, faster, and cheaper. It'll hit the trifecta. Most companies strive to get 2 out of those 3 in their lifetime as a company. But we give you all 3. Better, faster, and cheaper. That will be this evening. How to get your first cloud architect job webinar. And then we'll take your questions for up to 90 minutes. You can come off mute. You can come on screen. You can talk to us face-to-face. You can ask us questions in the chat box. But we're there for you. So that's tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, next, I want to remind everybody, I'm going to make a little flash up here. Flash. All right. Discount countdown. We started this January 13th. It will continue going on, but the 60% ends tomorrow. It will not be 60% after tomorrow. It will be 50%, and then it'll keep going down. So if you want to enroll in our award-winning Cloud Architect Career Development Program for less than $1,000 and get access to over 500 hours worth of content, access to 3 live classes for an entire year, access to an amazing community of people. Maxie put it there in the chat box. When you have an opportunity to learn from 3 CCIEs, how can you fail? And right now, only one of those work for us. 2 of them are students continuing to learn. They've been working on-prem or as engineers, and they're wanting to become cloud architects. So they're part of the program. So you have access to amazing people in the program. You have access to hundreds of hours worth of content that is there forever, indefinitely. You have access to the 3 live classes for at least 1 year. But the content, the materials, the program itself, the assignments, the class recordings, the intro to technology training, the AWS training, the Azure training, the hands-on lab configurations, the architecture projects, all these things you have access to indefinitely. Lifetime, I guess you could say, if you want to say it that way. But the classes are 1 year's worth of classes, roughly 150 class sessions, 300-ish hours of live classes, all available for you. Regularly priced $24.99, available for less than $1,000 at 60% off through tomorrow. It's been that we've had this 60%. Seems like forever now, but since January 13th, for over 30 days, we've had it available, and it will be going away tomorrow. So join us for tonight's webinar. Take advantage of the discount. Let us help you reach your goal. That's all I've got to say. Anything, Alonzo or Mike?
Yeah, totally agree. We're here. We're here to emphasize what we're doing, how we can help you, how you can change your life. We ask that you dedicate yourselves. I mean, this is not a fly-by-night scenario. This is not a boot camp. This is not a quick get-rich scheme scenario where you can just click and put the speaker next to your head while you're sleeping. This requires dedication, because if you want this high-paying job and you want this salary, you have to put the dedication in to get from point A to point B. We don't sugarcoat that this is not a challenging course, but it is something that will put you at the top of your class when it comes to you putting in your resume and you going against other prospective applicants. We want you to succeed, and we're here to make that happen. What about you, Mike?
My view is that people need to believe in themselves. I was a principal architect within 2 years of the time I started. Everybody said, "You can't do this, Mike, you can't do it." And I laughed at them because I believed in myself.
Yeah.
When they told me I couldn't start as a network engineer, I started as a network engineer 4, not an admin, and I didn't need any experience within 6 months later. Now, we train people differently. We train in a manner that others won't, so tomorrow our students can do what others can't. Get hired and get paid at the highest. I was a principal architect in 2 years. This is what a principal architect pays in today's world. The point is this may take people 5 years with the right training to get there. But the point is, architecture is a great career, but you've got to believe in yourself. We can build you the right plan, and believe me, we've got an award-winning plan. And how do I know people get hired every single day? Employers send representatives to our classes and try and pull people, and they say, we have hundreds of open positions. I want your people, Mike. I want your people, Chris, and I want your people, Alonzo. But like Alonzo said, you got to do the work. We put thousands of hours of effort into making this great. You know, the team that actually put the course together has well over $1 million of education. Just me, Chris, and Alonzo were 3 MBAs right here. We have 2 PhD business school professors that help teach business acumen. We've got application architects teaching applications that come in here. We've got network architects coming in. We have Praveen, who was a big data architect before we trained him, who's now a cloud architect who pops in and teaches things. We've got some people from AWS that were our students that now bring in their application and microservices background. And we do everything we can to make sure that our students have an unfair competitive advantage over everyone else in the world. So please join us tonight. Learn exactly what it takes. If you want to change your life, this is the last time will ever be less than $1,000, and I recommend you take advantage of it. But even if you don't train with us, at least come tonight, and you'll know everything that you need to learn to build your best cloud architect career.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Hope you have a great day, and see you this evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. This is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there.